before the pandemic getting really fascinated by flat earthers and trying to understand sort of the thinking behind them of people who decided actively to create an identity for themselves that was to just clearly reject what science, settled thousands of years ago with the ancient Greeks. And that there's no real contrast to it. It's more of an identity thing rather than a reasoning
rather.
And to have people sucked into that, it was fascinating to try and see what it was all about. And then, of course, we went on to understand the phenomenon of anti-vaxxers and anti-science and anti-skeptics. And this
right from flat Earth to anti-vaxxers.
Echo chambers that are validating this kind of thinking in ways that have real consequences.
Real consequences.
There are people in Canada who died surrounded by their families because they truly and genuinely believed that the vaccine was more dangerous than the virus, and it killed them.
Can you believe that he's actually saying this as a matter of fact, as an incontrovertible matter of fact? So dramatic pause. Obama would be proud of you, Justin.
And my responsibility as Prime Minister is to try and keep everyone in this country as safe as I possibly can. But I can't protect everyone from every bit of disinformation on the internet. So we have to have reflections of how we move forward, how we responsibilize the companies that are controlling so much.
How
private companies
we responsibilize
so much of
the companies,
the public square you now live in, that doesn't have police paid by your taxes to keep you safe, that doesn't have rules around businesses to regulate you so you don't get scammed by the corner store.
Literally talking about policing.
This is the new world we're in that we're going to have to try and adjust to. And I can tell you, I'm worried about the direction we're going. You may have seen this in the news recently. But
can you believe this? You're listening to an actual tyrant thinking out loud. I'm going to leave that up, and we might come back to this in a bit. Let me just make sure that I'm not too bright. I am too bright. Hold on. That's because I forgot. Now I'm too dark here. Yeah. Oh, that's a little better. Okay. That's much better. Can you believe the way he's talking? We have to responsibilize. First of all, is that even a word? I know it's a word in French. Responsabiliser. It means to sensitize, sort of. Is responsibilize the word? Responsibilize. Wiktionary. I don't think it's a real word. Doesn't matter. Justin Trudeau is talking about policing private enterprise to control disinformation that he deems to be disinformation by citing disinformation. People actually died surrounded by family. First of all, Trudy, in your Canada, people didn't die surrounded by family. They actually died alone in hospitals because you didn't let family go in. They actually died alone because the unvaccinated, following the science, were not allowed into hospitals for a little bit. People in Canada had to get vaccinated. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I was going to say they had to get vaccinated in order to get euthanized, but I'm not sure about that. I think I remember hearing a story about that. We have to responsibilize private enterprise so that people can't talk about things that I don't like them talking about. That's what I was going to pull up. Oh, yes. People actually believe that the jab is more dangerous than COVID. Well, here's a spoiler alert for you. And don't trust me, trust your own doctors, Trudy. For the age bracket, that pesky little age bracket of, I don't know, men aged 13 to 40, guess what is more objectively, that's not a word, objectively more dangerous than the Rona? For that age bracket, guess what it is? Myocarditis, age 13 to 39 risk. Let's just pull up one specific. What was it? It was it was a 15 per 10,000. Just yeah, no, but that's it. But Justin Trudeau, he loves the basic dictatorship of China and is prepared basically to turn Canada into China through all means necessary. And we're going to see this. How many of you in the chat watching now have heard of Bill C-4 out of Canada? We're going to talk about it in a second. But my brother, we have a little special guest intro. He only has 10 minutes. My brother, who looks like a wise old man. Dan, I'm bringing you in. Everybody, this is my actual brother from our shared mother. Dan Freiheit. We have the same last name. Dan.
Hey, what's going on? Look at that.
Look at that. You look a little cross-eyed. What's going on?
Okay, I'm all messed up here.
Dude, you look so much like our other brother. It's getting scary.
Right?
Okay. So everybody watching, this is my brother Dan from Canada. This is my brother. He's living through the madness right now, and he can give us probably the most direct firsthand, bit of information as to the updates as to what's going on in Canada under Justin Trudeau's basic dictatorship that he wants to turn Canada into. Dan.
I don't know, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, so credentials for anybody who doesn't know, you're a practicing lawyer out of Ontario. You're 2.5 years older than me.
2.5, that's right. Okay, yeah, that's right.
So what's going on in Canada, Dan?
What's going on in where do you want to start, man? Where do you want to start?
Take your mic and move it off your jacket or closer to your mouth.
Okay, sorry.
No, now you're not even using the mic to your phone.
What is it? This is not. How's the audio now? Is it good?
Yeah, it's decent. Tell us what's going on. Dan, sensitize America to what's going on in Canada. There are still federal mask mandates in federal court, correct?
Federal court is out of control. Federal court is out of. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know where they're getting who's making the decisions. I totally forget. Like, there's so many things. I don't even know where to start. Federal court, I believe, has mask requirements to get into court. I don't think they're checking vaccination status, which is somewhat comforting. But why not? Why not?
Small miracles.
So there's and they're very so who makes that decision? I don't know. And does that skew the case that comes out of there? I don't know. But it's disconcerting because there's no requirement, there's no recommendation from public health, right, for mask mandates at this point. So I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, your audio is terrible. People are going to live with it. But tell us what's going on in Canada. I don't think you're plugged in, Dan. Oh, now it just got better.
Now you can hear me better?
Is the chat going to say that we got two boomer brothers here?
If somebody wants to buy me maybe it's my old... Oh, this is my old mic. Okay, I got the wrong mic. Anyhow, I don't know what to tell you. So that's going on with the federal court. What else do you want to know?
Well, what's the latest? What are you working on these days?
On the advocacy side, look, we're dealing with the wrongful terminations. Okay, so that's good. That I've got a couple of those in the pipes, and whether it's considered misconduct generally to refuse to get jabbed, right? Where'd I go? Did I bore you already? You got the neon signs, man. Times are good when you got neon signs. And I don't know, man. There's lots to repair, I think, at this point. We're dealing with a lot of ongoing mandates, man. Ongoing mandates, vaccine requirements to get jobs. Crazy in the healthcare sector. And I don't know if it's like this in the States. I'd be very curious. Do you need to be vaccinated in American hospitals? Are your people global? What's going on in the global community? Do healthcare workers need to get vaccinated or call it jabbed, whatever you want to call it, in order to get a job in a healthcare space?
Well, I would have to double check what the status is now, but I think the states are a little bit also insane with the vax stuff because I think that the United States is the last country out there that is now requiring vaccination among non-citizens, non-residents entry
right to get in.
Yeah.
I know. What is going on with that?
No, but and the idiotic thing is you can get in infected with COVID, but you can't get in if you're vaccinated, but you can't get in if you're not vaccinated. And the science is going to change in May. I think they're officially rescinding that.
So, and I just put up a what do you call it? An ATIP, access to information request. Okay, just trying to explain why do these policies change? So what's the decision? The entire thing was redacted, meaning they got a legal opinion or they got a medical opinion saying drop the mandates, and they won't say why. And I had this issue with University of Western Ontario. Why did you change your policy? Like, let me hear your thinking. Be transparent about it, right? Won't tell you. We will not tell you. It's incriminating? Okay, fine. Okay, then tell us that. But it's well, maybe don't tell us that. I don't know what to tell you. It's a lot of weird stuff, and the lawyers have got to start speaking out about this, because it's getting to a point where there's too much that we're trying to sweep under the rug, and it ain't gonna fly. We gotta release the, you know what I mean? We gotta slowly release all these issues so that we can talk about them. Ongoing mandates. What else to tell you about? Vaccine. I mean, look, the vaccine injury support program. I've been in that system for a bit of time now, trying to figure out how that thing's operating. Man, that thing is supposed to be easy to understand for people to get relief, right? Trudeau made all this representations. Your chance of getting injured from the jab, 1 in a million. We got you covered. We got your 6. Oh boy. People, I think, in the Army may have known that sometimes you're not covered the way you think you are for some of these things, for injuries, right? Veterans, people dealing with insurance are, unfortunately have to go through this experience of not understanding, what forms, how to get your forms in order, but the vaccine program is intentionally opaque, and they're not being clear about, or they're making stuff up. Like one guy posted about the 60 days to appeal or something, a tragic decision, and 60 days to appeal or the file's closed. And people are getting these weird, indications from the program, making up rules on the fly. There's nothing about that in my ATIP, in my access to information request, about how that program is run, setting out, these arbitrary cutoffs. And it just adds stress to people that are already in a bad spot. So, there's that. I mean, it's all, there's so much, and it's, but yeah, I don't even know.
And the latest, Sean Hartman's dad.
That was the one, right? That was the word.
Everybody knows Sean Hartman's dad. I forget his first name now. His name was Dan Hartman, I think.
Yeah.
Sean Hartman, 18-year-old kid, died 33 days after his first Pfizer. Healthy kid, was hospitalized shortly after the jab, and then woke up dead. I didn't mean to say it like that. Died in his sleep 30 some odd days later. The father didn't know his kid was hospitalized shortly after the jab. Found out that the kid was hospitalized after the jab. They didn't run D-dimer tests. They didn't run troponin tests. And then his son died 30 some odd days after the first Pfizer jab. His claim for the vaccine injury program was denied. You can appeal it.
Yeah, that's the one he posted, and right. And there were some arbitrary timelines imposed there. And it was I just remember looking at the vaccine injury support program contract. There's nothing about any of those kind of timelines. Or if there was, it was all redacted. And speaking of which, they're supposed to get back to me. I've requested they unredact that document and they're supposed to get back to me by the 24th. But there was nothing in there about you've got 60 days. And and it's tough. These programs, you got to kind of make it up on the fly. It's like you're dealing with a public health emergency, this, that, and the other. But you can't be making up these rules like this and making people feel like their rights are going to be extinguished if they don't take certain actions. And then people actually believe that their rights have been extinguished when legally they haven't been. So my point is, I mean, yeah, you got to educate yourself, and I'll try to share more on my Twitter feed so that people are aware of this stuff. But you have these rights, and you've got to really push for them and really kind of advocate for yourself. So that's it on the vaccine injury support program. What else? I mean, look, my real beef was just vaccine mandates for getting onto planes. That was my main beef, and for participating in social life. And I think that's more or less resolved. We still got some work to do on that. So, and people are sharing their work on on Twitter about success with the council. So it's good. We're getting there, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and you only had 10 minutes because you didn't have enough.
Yeah,
time.
I got a blitz, but okay. Good being on
you.
the show again. I love picking up followers after I'm on your show. Some of them are actually real cute.
I like hearing from firsthand what's going on in Canada. I see it from down here, and my goodness, when you're out of the asylum, it looks outlandish. Right? It looks outrageous. Except then I say oh, look at that. They're asking for people to show their vaccination status coming into the States now, non-citizens. It's
Yeah.
backwards everywhere. It's power that they just don't want to give it up. They say, I'll give it up. I'll give it back to you. In 2 months, you get your rights back. 2 months. Trust the science.
I got to take off. Good chatting, bro.
See you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Now, I want to bring up a couple of articles. So, for those of you who didn't know the news, and we'll do this on both YouTube and Rumble before we go to Rumble, because FTW, I'm not scared of anything on YouTube anymore. And I think even YouTube is coming around to the science of things. The vaccine injury program in Canada. Sean Hartman's dad, Dan Hartman, was on the channel. We had an interview. We had some audio issues during that interview, but just a horrendous story. His son died. It was 33 days, 23. I mean, you all know the story. His father has now been on, a mission, and understandably so. I mean, it's impossible to understand the devastation. It's impossible to understand the devastation. And his father has now been on a mission to. There is no justice that can be had at this point. There is no justice. What there can be is punishment for those who are responsible, judicial, political punishment. There can be compensation of sorts, and then there can be preventing a similar tragedy from befalling another child, another parent, another family, another human. So this is it. From the Western Standard. Don't expect CBC to be jumping on this story. I actually am going to go check right after to see if they've even covered it. Ontario man whose son died after COVID vaccine denied compensation. Some of you might say that headline is editorializing. No, Sean Hartman died a month after getting his first shot. Whether or not you think the two are correlated, I'll tell you one thing. When a young person dies suddenly, you look for things that they have done out of their ordinary routine, and then you go and you presumptively, I will dare say, presumptively attribute fault, presumptively attribute causality until another form of causality can be shown to have interrupted. 18-year-old kids don't just die. And if they do, and you can't determine what the definitive cause was, you look and you see, well, what did they do differently within the proximity of their death? Oh, look at that. He got a jab 30 some odd days before. New Tecumseh, Ontario resident Dan Hartman was denied money from Dan Hartman is the father, Sean Hartman is his son, was denied money from the Vaccine Injury Support Program on March 7, despite his son, Sean, dying after taking a COVID-19 vaccine. My son died 33 days after his first Pfizer vaccine, and he was a perfectly healthy boy with no underlying conditions, he said in an interview. And he shows the proof. It's enough to make you enraged. Sean, 17, took a COVID-19 vaccine to be allowed to play hockey. Dan said he took Sean to the emergency room 4 days after his first dose because he had brown circles around his eyes, a rash on his face, and pain in his right shoulder. I think this reporting is somewhat inaccurate or may have confused something. My understanding from my interview with Dan is that his mother had taken him to the hospital, and Dan did not know that his kid had been hospitalized shortly after the first jab. Details, maybe Western Standard got it right and I got it wrong, whatever. The bottom line is, shortly after, with days after the first jab, Sean went to the hospital. And apparently the doctors did not conduct what are pretty much standard operating procedure for those types of medical emergencies. D-dimer tests, I don't know what it is, but I know what it is now. Troponin tests, I know what it is now. Didn't know what it was at the time. What are they looking for? Dissolved clots, evidence of myocarditis. These are standard tests which should have been done. My understanding is Dan went after the doctors and nothing came of that either. He was sent home from the emergency room soon after. He was found dead on his bedroom floor 1 month later. An autopsy was performed and a coroner determined that the death was unascertained. Oh. All the medical examiner could find was an enlarged heart. Oh. I mean, this is it's tragedy. It's absurd, upside down world, clown world tragedy. The application process involved Dan gathering medical, hospital, and family records. He sent all the records to VISP and waited a while. The father called his reaction to the rejection pure rage and a lot of sadness. He said they cannot prove the COVID-19 vaccine did not kill him. While he expected the decision to be declined, he said he had hope his application would be approved. The hope stemmed from how many people have heard Sean's story through his Twitter account. You know what the problem is? The fact that so many people have heard Sean's story is I hate to think so bloody cynically, is why they could not possibly approve it. If they possibly approved Sean Hartman's death as a vaccine injury, it would unravel, undermine, contradict the narrative that they have been pitching, not just on adults, but on kids. It would undermine everything that they have done to Canadian citizens since the vaccine rollout. They could not possibly approve that vaccine injury because it would devastate their story. It would devastate the treatment that Sean got. It would devastate the prospects of pushing this jab on children. But no, trust Justin Trudeau when he sits there with his sleeves rolled up and a hand in his pocket like he's too cool for school, talking about all those people that died surrounded by family and friends because they were actually convinced the jab was more dangerous than the Rona. Yep. So they have to continue to lie. There's absolutely no choice. Let me bring up the article to see if there's anything I didn't get in this. Hold on. Sorry, let me pull it back up here on my side. No, they didn't find anything. Just an enlarged heart in a young man. Just an enlarged heart. 33 days after his first Pfizer shot, which we now know carries a no less than 1 in 5,000 risk of myocarditis for young men. According to Dr. Kieran Moore of Ontario, 1 in 5,000 per dose. But if we go to the NCIB or NCBI and we look up the adverse reactions of special interest, we see that it's actually 1 in 800 per dose. Dan reached out to Sean's death cannot be confirmed except by staining slides and searching for spike protein. There is no pathologist in Canada who can do that right now. Dan reached out to American pathologist Dr. Ryan Cole, who was one of the 2 trained in staining slides, to obtain assistance. Dan said he expects the tests to prove the COVID-19 vaccine killed Sean. He said the toughest part since losing his son has been waking up every day. Can you imagine this? It's enough to make you actually... the toughest thing is just waking up every day. And there was backstory to the story as to how his son got the jab, and the regret that Dan created a give, send, go to try to take a leave of absence from work. He took 3 weeks off when Sean died, which he said was not enough. Every employee has seen him cry at work for the death of a child. He said every parent needs at least 1 year of paid leave. Let's see what they said here. He plans on using some of the money to hire a lawyer to sue some of the organizations involved in his death. His first target will be the hockey league that required Sean to be vaccinated. I'm not optimistic about any of those lawsuits. He concluded by saying he wants answers to try and live in peace again, knowing the truth. It has totally destroyed my life, he said. I've cried so much more than I ever have in my life. Canadian government records published in July showed a total of 8 COVID-19 vaccine death and injury claims were paid to date. 8, with almost 700 awaiting completion of medical reviews. The 8 anonymous claims were the first to be paid under the $75 million vaccination compensation program launched in 2021. Managers of VISP said of the 774 claims received, fewer than 1/10, 71 were rejected due to incomplete information or ineligibility. 8 claims were paid and another 654 were under review as investigators retrieved medical records. Good luck. Good luck trying to prove causality in something which can be difficult under the best of circumstances to prove causality. You don't get over, and you don't get over that. And I've shared anecdotally a family, not within my family, not immediate family, but parents lost a child at a young age, and They never get over that. The family never gets over that. And imagine in this circumstance, the family has been victimized by government extortion, government coercion, which trickled down all the way to hockey leagues. All you have is an 18-year-old kid who just wants to play hockey. Oh, just, hey, what are you so scared about? Just roll up your sleeves and take a jab in the arm, for the greater good. And succumbs to the pressure. And then victimized by policy, victimized by this arrogant, pompous, awful human being, Justin Trudeau, parading around, talking about keeping people safe, trusting the science, equating those who are hesitant to this jab to people who deny that the earth is round or spherical, because it might be slightly obvious. Equating those who don't want this jab to flat earthers, as if the science is settled on the spherical nature of Earth and all planetary celestial bodies, except for, very anomalous celestial bodies and meteorites, and the safety and efficacy of an experimental jab using technology that had never before been used on humans, let alone at a mass global scale, that has, according to his own doctors, Trudeau's own provincial doctors. Actually, you know what? Before we head over to Rumble, let me just pull this up, just in case anybody hasn't seen it. I'm just going to go to this. It's called Adverse Effects Special Interest, just so that YouTube can understand. It's not some lawyer who is veering too far from his lane of expertise. This lawyer can read basic English. This is from what is it called? PubMed, NCBI. Serious adverse events of special interest following mRNA COVID-19 vaccination in randomized trials in adults. The data is not going to get much better than this. Results. Listen, let me just the way they say it. Listen to this. Pfizer and Moderna mRNA COVID-19 vaccines were associated with an excess risk of serious adverse events of special interest of 10.1 and 15.1 per 10,000. I can do math. That's like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 800. Combined, the mRNA vaccines were associated with an excess risk of serious adverse events of special interest of 12.5 per 10,000. Let me just go ahead. Sorry, people, you're going to think I'm a total idiot, because I am. That would be 10,000. No, it would be 12.5 divided by 10,000. I know it's like 1 in 800. What's my problem? 12.5 divided by 10,000. That's not the way to do it. Holy cows, guys. Talk about a boomer divided by 12.5. Yeah, it's 1 in 800, but it was like 1 in 827. The Moderna had a slightly high. This is not me. This is not a lawyer talking out of his ass. Trust Justin Trudeau, however, because what was the COVID risk for young men? The risk was so non-existent for that age bracket. You had Dina Hinshaw out of Alberta literally manufacturing fake cases of COVID deaths, so they could then say, "Look, a 14-year-old boy just died from COVID." That's how dangerous it is. Everyone, go get your jibby jab for your 1 in 800 chances of adverse events of special interest. Oh, what's that? The kid had stage 4 brain cancer and was in a tumor, and we tested him just because he was on death's door and found out that he was COVID positive, but dying of stage 4 brain cancer in a coma. And we attributed his death to COVID. And if they've done it once, they've done it many more than once times. You get a father whose life, there's no coming back from that. It's a nightmare from which you never awake. And when he says the hardest thing of his life is just waking up every day. And you get victimized by your government, not once, endlessly. And now he's been victimized yet again because his claim has been refused. As if a few $100,000, because I think the max is like $245,000, as if that could possibly compensate for what he suffered through. But why not? Just do it. Just kick him in the teeth one more time. Because if you were to dare acknowledge his son's death, attributed it to the jab, Something tells me the Father said, give me no money, just vindicate me, acknowledge me, recognize my tragedy, recognize my sorrow, and acknowledge that you are the source of it. There's no way they could do that. They would sooner probably pay him $10 million to shut up. I mean, they've given $10 million to proven terrorists. Okay, well, now I'm angry. I didn't want to start this angry. I actually didn't want to start like this at all. Let's go to Rumble. We're 2,000 people watching here. Sorry, everybody. Well, it'll get better on Rumble because then we're going to talk about the new laws in Canada, which some of you might not have heard about. We're going to talk. There's not really much to talk about with Trump because, hey, maybe public pressure and public outcry has actually changed a few minds, hearts, and souls. Let's move on over to Rumble. Here's the link. But no, I'm sorry. It's unimaginable. And I can close my eyes and feel the sorrow, and I can close my eyes and feel the rage. And it's just insult to injury. It's an act of provocation at this point. What the Trudeau government is doing to Canadians, is doing to the victims of Trudeau policy. It's not just insult to injury. It's provocation. You know, Dan Hartman, for all of his tragedies, has probably put out a few tweets that, you know, a day later he says, you know, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I shouldn't have put that video out. This is a man who is suffering inconsolable grief and is getting needled and is getting provoked by the government. Yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, thanks for your documentation. Cause of death undetermined. I know it happened. I know he was hospitalized 4 days after getting the jab and then died 33 days later, but who knows? Undetermined. Rumble is not down. Don't make me nervous, people. I didn't do the standard intro. All right, standard intro. Disclaimers before we head on over to Rumble. Seize the day. No vax, not allowed to visit people in hospitals still. Unfucking believable. It's provocation. It's provocation. They want someone to lash out and do something stupid so they can then say, look at these people. Look at these flat earthers. They can't even control. They don't understand that these rules are to protect them. No vax, can't get into the States if you're not a citizen, a resident. No vax, can't get into a hospital. Oh, yeah, what's that? You have COVID? Sure, just tell me what your quarantine plan is. Standard disclaimers, Rumble rants. YouTube takes 30% of super chats if you want to support the channel. Better to do it on Rumble. We're simultaneously streaming there. We're going to go over there. They have Rumble rants. Rumble takes 20%, so better to support a platform that supports free speech. Better for the creator. All things better. You see the way Crowder is, I don't want to say killing it. I want to say owning it. Crowder... Rumble is, and he made a very good point. I was listening to Crowder as we were driving back from the Florida Keys today. It's a very interesting distinction between social media and media. People go to YouTube not to hang around in social milieus and social media. They go there because they want to absorb, consume content. Rumble is turning into a network. It's turning into an unaffiliated network of content creators that are drawing in people away from YouTube towards Rumble, en masse, by the hundreds of thousands, literally. People, I mean, I remain optimistic. There's a lot of sheep as the term grows. There's a lot of people who reflexively just say, "Hey, what's recommended?" and I'll know what the news is, and they, you know, hang around. They're getting exposed to Rumble. Rumble's in the news. Rumble is making the news. Rumble has, I'm going to say it, an unaffiliated network of free-thinking content creators who are more honest, who are more genuine, who are more reliable than everything you find on network cable news. Everything. Maybe with the exception of Tucker Carlson, because I do like Tucker Carlson. Everything. And it is becoming a network to which people are flocking in the same way they used to flock to network television. And it's an amazing thing to watch. And we're going to go contribute to that. So head over to Rumble. There's 1818. It's a lucky number. 1818 on YouTube now. Let's see. 0 on YouTube and an additional 1,818 people going over to Rumble. And then we're going to have the after party on locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I'm ending on YouTube And then we're going to talk a bunch of stuff. How do I want to end, remove, and remove? Okay, 3, 2, 1. See you on Rumble, people. I hope I wasn't too angry with this first half hour, but I am. Sorry.